Starts right now.
As we speak right now, it's ongoing. The search will continue as long as it takes.
Tonight, the search is on for this woman, Suzanne Clark Simpson. She's been missing since Sunday. At this hour, crews from multiple agencies, including the Texas Rangers, Texas DPS, and Olmos Park Police, looking for her in a wooded area in Olmos Park.
The night team's John Paul Barajas joins us live now from East Olmos Drive and East Contour Drive. It's just west of Highway 281. John Paul, what do you know so far about those search efforts?
Well, Steve, Stephanie, you can't see much right now because it is so dark, but a DPS spokesperson told us that they are searching this wooded area because she lives so nearby, and also because the last time she was seen was nearby off East Olmos, not far from Shook Avenue. But they said that they don't have any specific reason. They're just searching this area as a precaution. So far, they've been using dogs and ATVs to search the terrain, but have not had any luck. They've also been putting out these flyers asking anyone with information to call 210-822-2000. But again, have not had much luck. As far as the case itself, very limited details. Suzanne Clark Simpson was last seen, or the last place she was at the Argyle and Alamo Heights between 6 and 9 p.m. Sunday. She was then last seen at 11 p.m. Sunday wearing a black dress, a long black dress, and black heels. And that is all the information that we have at this hour. The DPS spokesperson told us search efforts here might wrap up soon just because of how dark it is, but that the search efforts will continue as soon as the sun comes up. Steve, Stephanie.
Of course, we'll stay on top of it. Thank you, John Paul. A wanted felon and suspected gang member shot and killed by a Bexar County Sheriff's deputy this afternoon.
And also the night team's John Paul Barajas. He followed this case for much of the day. He's going to take us through the chase turned shooting that ended just a few blocks from a preschool.
San Antonio Police, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, and constables all converge at the old Highway 90 and 151 intersection on the west side. It was a chase that ended in a shooting within eyesight of a preschool.
I said, there's helicopters flying, and she was like, is he okay? Is he safe? Her son. I was like, from what I'm seeing, yes, because there's a lot of cops.
That grandmother didn't want to show her face on camera. She happened to be picking up her 3-year-old grandson at the time, not knowing a 43-year-old wanted felon had just been shot and killed by a BCSO deputy.
Does have a lengthy criminal history and is believed to be a documented member of the Tango Rejon gang.
Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar says SAPD's Street Crimes Unit asked for assistance in monitoring the suspect. When deputies tried to pull him over off Castroville Road, it turned to a several-mile high-speed chase. The sheriff tells me when they got to this intersection off Old Highway 90 and 151, they surrounded that suspect vehicle. That suspect then tried ramming through to get away, but because there was both officers and deputies on foot around in the area, one deputy shot inside that suspect vehicle at least 5 times, hitting and killing the suspect, also injuring a woman passenger with him. She was hit in the leg and taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
My daughter got the email saying that everything's okay, but first thing is, like, it's too close to the school. What's going on?
Besides the suspect and his passenger, no other injuries were reported.
It makes me feel like everything's getting worse and worse in society.
As for the deputy who shot, he's a 13-year veteran of the department and is a part of BCSO's SWAT team. He's now on administrative leave as per protocol when an officer is involved in a shooting. John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
We also have some new information into this one new on the Nightbeat. We've learned the names of the 4 Tren de Aragua gang members who were arrested at the Palacia apartments over the weekend.
So according to ICE officials, they are Ángel Josué Guerra Sanguino, Yonaiker Velasco, Jean Carlos Hidalgo Oviedo, and Yorbis Rafael Osorio Carmona. They range in age from 22 to 27 years old. All of them are citizens of Venezuela.
All 4 were actually arrested near Eagle Pass before they were arrested at the Palacia apartments. They were all instructed to report to nearby ICE offices after being arrested from detention in 2022 and 2023.
And according to a spokesperson with enforcement and removal operations, at least 3 of them did not report to an ICE office. They all have orders of removal to their home country, and right now they're in ICE custody. A 1-year-old little boy, that boy has died. That little boy, Jariah Johnson, died late last night after he was mauled early yesterday by a pair of pit bulls, and those dogs belonged to his babysitter. And that's the woman that you see there, 36-year-old Heather Rodriguez. She was in charge of caring for Jariah, and now she's facing criminal charges in his death. Bexar County Sheriff's investigators say that she left that baby with her 13-year-old daughter, who was also bitten while she was fighting off the dogs.
Just the thought of my son and his neighborhood friends just riding bikes down there was just scary because the dog could have easily just came out.
Sheriff Javier Salazar says that Rodriguez could face additional charges for the injuries that her daughter suffered. As of tonight, we know that the dogs are in the custody of Bexar County Animal Control.
Newly released video bringing up 2-year-old pain. The city of Uvalde sharing more videos from its response to the Robb Elementary shooting more than 2 years ago.
And as the families of the victims tell our Daniela Ibarra, it is difficult but important to watch.
And nobody went in.
Watching the failures unfold on May 24th, 2022 is what Jesse Rizzo describes as frustrating and infuriating.
The people that ultimately paid the price were the children and the teachers, right? My niece was there. She still had a pulse when they pulled her out. She could have lived.
It took over 77 minutes for law enforcement to confront the shooter who killed 19 kids and 2 teachers. Getting all the city's records from that day took over 2 years and a court order.
What do you think about the fact that it took so long to get this second batch of videos?
It's disturbing, it's like, it's almost like torture, like insult to the families.
The city released hundreds of calls, texts, and videos back in August. But Uvalde police found an additional 49 clips after an officer didn't see his footage released.
The fact that it took an officer saying something in order for us to see these videos today, what do you think about that?
I think that officer just tried to save his own tail, honestly.
Brett Cross is the guardian of Uzziah Garcia, one of the 19 kids killed at Robb Elementary. He's highly critical of law enforcement's response and says these videos prove why.
Because they saw it, they could have prevented it, they could have stopped it, they could have saved a lot of the kids, but they didn't.
Why is it important for people to see these videos, even though they are difficult to watch?
I think it's important because it's a reminder of the failure and it's a learning experience.
I think that the whole world needs to see the failures that happened that day.
The city of Uvalde is the first entity to release records from that day. We're still waiting on records from Uvalde CISD, the Uvalde County Sheriff's Office, and Texas DPS. In Uvalde, Daniela Ibarra, KSAT 12 News.
A difficult day, no doubt, for all of those families there in Uvalde. Now that place's newest school is paying tribute to the victims, and now it's going to be known as Legacy Elementary.
Yeah, the Uvalde School Board approved the name this evening. Family members of the 21 killed at Robb Elementary emotional about the decision. Some of those family members and community members spent nearly a year narrowing down the names for this new school.
I pray that, the community and our future children, godchildren, will remember why the school is there.
One family member told us that he wasn't happy with the choice and that he hoped the new name would be more specific.
Legacy Elementary still under construction. It will replace Robb Elementary. The Uvalde School Board moving forward. Foundation plans to have it ready by next school year. The San Antonio Missions baseball team one step closer to moving into a new venue, it seems. That's after Bexar County commissioners voted to move forward with the funding plan for a new downtown ballpark. Lots of community members voicing their opinions on the potential move at commissioners' court today. Much of the feedback heard today was positive, but there is some opposition that comes from some of the people who live in the soap factory apartment complex that would need to be torn down to make way for the new stadium. Downtown developer Weston Urban owns that apartment complex, is also leading the development of that new stadium. They are part owners of the Missions. They say they will help those tenants relocate once the time comes.
Unfortunately, many of us have either directly or indirectly been affected by cancer, and that is especially true for Latinos. And researchers at this point, they really don't know why. UT Health San Antonio says that Latinos in South Texas are more likely than other groups to have cervical, liver, and stomach cancers. And that's something that we discussed today during a KSAT town hall.
Our community still fears cancer. They don't want to go see the doctor for fear of being told they might have cancer. So therefore, they're delaying coming in for the appropriate, screenings that they might need.
Dr. Ramirez is also leading a study to find out why so many Latinos are affected by cancer. You see that QR code there at the bottom? Scan it if you want to sign up for the study. And also watch today's town hall. We discussed a new facility to treat cancer patients here in San Antonio. It's called the Multi-Specialty and Research Hospital, and it's opening this December.
He resigned from the force after being accused of taking money from a crime scene. So how did an ex-SAPD officer then become the public safety director for the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo?
A San Antonio police officer resigns from the force that is stripped of his peace officer's license after investigators said that he stole thousands of dollars from a crime scene.
So how did he end up as director of public safety for the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo? It's a question KSAT Investigates Dylan Collier set out to answer.
It's a late summer evening in 2021. You are looking through the lens of a body camera worn by San Antonio police officer Jonathan Griffin as he sprints after a suspect who fled from a traffic stop, ditched his vehicle, and made a run for it. His dash to freedom ends in this creek bed.
Get all the way up. You're running just fine.
In all, police arrested 3 suspects, recovered a handgun that had been thrown from the sport utility vehicle, found bags of drugs, including black tar, heroin, and lots of cash.
72, 73, 74. 374, homie.
And while the footage recorded throughout that night shows Griffin repeatedly hand over bills to other officers or place them in an evidence envelope himself, it also shows the officer put a floral clutch purse containing a large amount of money in the passenger door storage area of an SAPD patrol vehicle, where it would remain as the scene continued to unfold. An hour after Griffin placed the clutch in the storage compartment, his footage shows it no longer appeared to be there. San Antonio Police Internal Affairs that fall began probing why a woman's purse at the scene did not make it into their evidence room. And while officials did not confirm that the floral bag was the item in question, Griffin resigned from the force that December while under investigation. In August 2022, Griffin was indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts of felony tampering with evidence. Last year, he pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of misdemeanor abuse of official capacity, and in exchange for his plea, was given 2 years deferred adjudication and agreed to permanently surrender his Texas peace officer's license. Griffin, according to court records, was discharged early from his community supervision this May.
75 years of history.
Despite Griffin's legal entanglement, he landed on his feet as the director of public safety for the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. Members of law enforcement contacted KSAT asking how Griffin, out of all the former officers in the area, acquired the role. They aren't the only ones raising questions.
Just by the very nature of the crime, when we discuss misdemeanors, especially for somebody in a law enforcement position, it's serious.
Robert Almonte II is a former prosecutor who specialized in public corruption.
Certainly, you want certain types of people in that position of authority. The rodeo, as we know, is one of the largest in the world. A lot of people attend it, and security should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. People want to be able to feel safe.
Rodeo officials first chose not to answer any questions about Griffin or his leadership role, before eventually telling KSAT in a written statement, "We are aware of a past misdemeanor in Mr. Griffin's history. This matter was fully addressed prior to hiring, and it does and did not impact his qualifications or ability to serve in his current role. He was hired based on his professional qualifications and his commitment to the highest standards of safety. We remain committed to providing a safe and welcoming environment for all participants and attendees at our events."
So you start to call into question, perhaps somebody's, credibility, their ability to tell the truth. And in a position of somebody being the director of public safety at such a high level, you want somebody who you can trust there.
For KSAT Investigates, I'm Dylan Collier.
Another SAPD officer was listed as a co-defendant in Griffin's indictment, but his case no longer appears in court records, and KSAT could find no record that it ever went to trial.
So as part of Griffin's punishment, he was ordered to pay more than $3,100 in restitution to a victim, and public records show that she is the mother of one of the suspects that was arrested that night.
All right, let's change gears now and talk about the weather out there, especially locally. We're going to get to the hurricane, but let's talk about what we can see here in South Texas.
Yeah, we have some more pleasant mornings on the way, at to slightly below average, and another record challenging day tomorrow. Let's get right to it with our weather headlines. Tomorrow, we're likely to break another record high. Morning temperatures will become closer to and even a degree or two below average in the days ahead, even starting tomorrow morning. And of course, we have Category 5 Hurricane Milton in the Gulf of Mexico headed toward Florida. 96 was our high temperature today. That's 11 degrees above average and a new record for the day. We broke the old record by 1 degree. We start the day tomorrow at 63, which is average for this time of year. Near 90 at noon, though. We warm up quickly. 95 for the high temperature. Wall-to-wall sunshine, northeasterly breeze at 5 to 10 miles per hour. In the hill country, lower 90s, Bernie 91, Comfort 92, but 95 Sabinal, Divine 96, along with Pleasanton and Floresville. Looking ahead, just that record challenging day tomorrow again, and then we'll get out of record territory, but still well above average for this time of year. Average 85 will be low 90s Friday through the weekend, near 90 next week. But notice those mornings. It's an improvement. Even a weak cool front could hit us by the early to middle part of next week, and that could drop our morning temperatures even more significantly down closer to 60 with the chance of upper 50s. Please, by the end of next week, there's a little bit of hope. The air is dry right now, so it feels great outside. We're just, our afternoons are above average. We have that desert-like weather. Relatively cool mornings, pleasant at least, and then the afternoons temperature rises quickly. Today was a record. Tomorrow's likely to be a record. Hurricane Milton, Category 5, max sustained winds at 160. Gusting even higher, moving to the northeast at 12 miles per hour. Instead of all those spaghetti plots, I'm going to show you basically the average of them. And it really keeps the average of those spaghetti and computer models, keeps it south of Tampa still, basically between Sarasota and Port Charlotte. So roughly between Tampa and Fort Myers area, and that would be a landfall around this time tomorrow, maybe an hour or two thereafter, and then it takes it across the Florida Peninsula and out over the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. Didn't change very much compared to the previous track earlier today. This update, by the way, 10 p.m. It's fresh data. Notice it could fall anywhere within this forecast fan from roughly just north of Tampa all the way down to Fort Myers. But sometimes we see the entire fan trend one way or another. If we do see it trend, I think it would be southward. Here's the key. Likely a low end 4 or high end 3 when it makes landfall tomorrow night. But it's going to remain a hurricane for its entire path along the Florida Peninsula into Thursday morning. Biggest issue, storm surge. Worst case scenario, peak storm surge. We're talking 9 to 15 feet, basically Tampa area, St. Pete southward, all the way through Sarasota, Inglewood, Venice Beach. Sanibel, Fort Myers could see 8 to 12 foot storm surge. And this is the water level above the ground. That's how high the water could get above the ground, even several miles inland. It's all because of the high winds pushing that water onshore. So unfortunately, it's the water that usually does most of the damage with these storms, not the wind. But the wind is going to be an issue. Some gusts likely 110 or higher within that landfalling zone from Tampa down toward Cape Coral and Fort Myers. Anyway, here's another look at our forecast around here. I wish we could drum up a shower. We can't even get enough clouds in the sky to give us the hope for a raindrop. It's just that kind of a weather pattern we're in. And actually across the rest of the lower 48, it is a very quiet weather pattern out there. It's just Milton in the Gulf of Mexico. And keep in mind, those Gulf waters, 85, 86 degrees, that's, the fuel for these storms. And that's a good 2 to 4 degrees above average.
Yeah, and
those Gulf waters, and that's adding to the strength of this.
That's why that hurricane was able to ramp up like it did.
18 hours went from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5. That's the second fastest on record.
Thanks,
Scary
Adam.
stuff. Now, on a lighter note, Game 7, right? And you have a little preview for Game of the Week, and this one's going to be a treat on Friday.
Yes, it is. I mean, at this time of the year, what a awesome chance to see some undefeated district action. It'll be Alamo Heights taking on Victoria West. We'll preview that matchup after the break. Plus, 19-year-old Stephon Castle showing the NBA he's not afraid when we come back. We kick off off sports this evening with a preview of our Week 7 big game coverage game of the week. This Friday, Alamo Heights and Victoria West will match up for the first time as District 13 5A D2 rivals. And get this, both programs own perfect 6-0 records entering this week. Well, that hot streak, though, will end this Friday for one team. It's sure to feel like a playoff game. The 12's top 12 third-ranked Mules opened the season banged up, but each week they've returned some key players, and that'll be the case again this week.
Injuries are part of it. Guys in and out of the lineup are always part of it. But as long as they keep putting the team ahead of themselves individually, then you have a chance to be successful, and they've done that.
We've worked our whole season, off season, from January to now, just putting in the work in the weight room and on the field, just trying to get the best out of it.
We're going to have a healthy respect for them. We know they're good, or they wouldn't be 6-0. But we also feel like we got a good football team.
I think this far in the season, you don't really see that very often, and it should be a good game for us, good game for them. I'm excited.
There's mutual respect on both sides going into this pivotal district battle. Victoria West will make the trip to San Antonio, fresh off of a 45-26 win over Tybee.
We have a lot of respect for Coach Ritterman and his coaching staff, and what their kids do and their team at Alamo Heights. It's a big challenge, and it's a big game on the road. District ball game, it's the next one, and of course we're looking forward to it.
Very excited. We know we get to display our talents against a great crowd and great team, and I just know we're ready for it, and it's very exciting to know you had that on Friday.
The action unfolds at 7 o'clock at Orem Stadium. We'll have the highlights and postgame on the Nightbeat Friday. And here's a look at the BGC road trip. Randolph is at Marion. Second-ranked Piper visiting Seguin, and number 6 New Braunfels hosts Bernie Champion. The San Antonio Spurs 2024-25 preseason is officially underway. Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama weren't rushed back on the court for yesterday's opener. And as expected, the product on the court looked like, of course, a preseason game. OKC won 112-107. Julian Champagnie was given the green light to shoot the ball, going 6 of 13 from long range. The third-year small forward led the floor with 22 points. And fourth overall pick, Stephon Castle stole the show late in the third quarter.
Confident, Castle. Oh, Castle!
He was the king in his castle that time. That's how you go top shelf right there.
It really when I looked, and the man that was guarding me kind of went across to the other side. So when I looked and seen nobody in front of me, that's kind of when I knew. Playing against a team like that, I mean, everybody's good. It's a full roster of guys that can really play. So, you really don't have any time to rest in games like that. So really just getting adjusted to the physicality and the speed of the game is probably going to be the biggest thing for me.
All right, get excited. The Spurs are back in action tomorrow against Orlando. CP3 and Wemby will play for the 7 o'clock tip-off. All right, UTSA football gets a much-needed refresh during its bye week after the break.
We still have the edge, you would think a team that's 2-3, they'll be down with the confidence and edge, but we still feel like we're that team, and that's how we're practicing.
The UTSA football team may be confident, but they're a less than ideal 2-3 overall coming out of their bye week after falling to AAC foe East Carolina at the end of September. The idle week gave the Roadrunners time to get their minds right with some self-reflection before they visit Houston, where they'll face 1-4 Rice at 6 o'clock on Saturday. That'll be an important bounce-back game for the Roadrunners.
Still have that edge, they say.
Still have that edge.
All right, thanks, Mary.
Thank you, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying up late with us. And yes, this has been a very busy news day. We appreciate your company. Have a good night.
See you tomorrow.